QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Class tracking by division, selling, and administrative expenses. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our test class tracking division work file within QuickBooks. We currently have the open windows open. You can set up the open windows or open the open windows by going to the view dropdown and go to the open windows list. Last time we set up this test company file and we set up our accounts so that we can put together a multiple step income statement. To do that, we went to the lists dropdown, chart of accounts. We set up the parent categories of selling and admin, put all the expenses as subordinate to one or the other. So if we take a look at our report then for the profit and loss, reports drop down, company and financial, take a look at the profit and loss standard report, changing the dates up top from 01/01/21 to 12/31/21. Here's our standard report. And so we have our selling and admin in these nice collapsible areas, breaking those two out so we get this multi-step type of income statement. Let's go ahead and add a cost of goods sold item so we can get the full effect, have some cost of goods sold in there as well. To do that, we'll have to sell some inventory. If I go back to the home page in the open windows, we don't have inventory on because we don't have this top line. Let's go ahead and add it. So I'm going to go to the file dropdown, or the edit drop-down. We're going to go down to the preferences. Let's go to the preferences. Then we want items and inventory on the left-hand side, items and inventory, company preferences, and then I'm going to turn on the inventory and purchase orders right there, and I'm going to keep the other two checked off. Once I hit OK, we'll see another line show up here in the home page in the vendor section. I'm going to say OK, and it's going to close everything first. So I'm going to say, all right, close everything. That's what you have to do. And then I'm going to go back and open everything back up, company, and then the home page. And there we have that new line up top. So now we can sell an inventory item. I haven't set up any items. Let's see if they allow me to sell an inventory item without setting one up. So I'm going to go and create an invoice here. We're going to sell an inventory item to customer one, sell an inventory item. And we're going to set up an item. So it's going to be item 2, item number 2. And we're going to set it up. Yes, this is going to be an inventory part this time, inventory part. So we're going to set this thing up, and this is going to be item 2, inventory part. Let's do that. And this is going to be for, let's say, 25,000. We'll make it a large amount here for the cost. And we'll say that it's going to be, well, let's make this a little bit, 15,000. And then we'll make this one 35,000 for the sales price. Cost of goods sold is the expense. Sales is going to be the selling price of it. So there it is. That's going to be our part set up. I'm going to say OK. And I don't have any of the quantity on hand. I'm going to say that's OK. I'm going to sell it anyways. And we're going to sell one of those. And so when I record this, it's going to record an increase to accounts receivable. The other side's going to go to sales for the 35,000. Also, it's going to be recording the cost of goods sold and decreasing inventory, which we don't have any inventory on the books. We're concerned on the income statement side of things at this point. So I'm going to say save and close. And hold on a second. That's okay. I'm going to say okay. And then let's open up the profit and loss again. Reports drop down, company and financial, profit and loss standard, changing the dates up top from 01/01/21, 12/31/21. So now we've got a full effect of our multiple step income statement to some degree, right? We've got the cost of goods sold, and then we've got the expenses broken out between the selling expenses and the administrative expenses. Now let's think about how class tracking can basically fit into this system. Now if I use class tracking, I can think of another column up top, and I can break out the columns up top. So we might then have a class for the selling and the administrative, so we can have multiple classes for selling and admin. Now, if I still had the separate account numbers and broke out the selling and admin, then notice you can see the same thing will be broken out with two different line items as we break them out into two different columns. That doesn't give us a whole lot of added feature, but you can see how that could be kind of like a double check for us to be breaking out the selling and admin. So that's one way that we can break it out there. We can also, if we had another kind of division that we're applying to, then we can use the breakout this way for the selling and admin, and then possibly have other divisions up top that we can be breaking out between different things that we're doing. If we're doing division 1 and we're trying to assign revenue and cost to Division 1 and Division 2, and then we can basically apply out the selling and admin to Division 1, Division 2, using possibly some kind of ratio. We'll talk about that in a future presentation. Or we can basically, if we're a smaller company, I think this might be useful for a smaller company. If you, instead of breaking out these subcategories of selling and admin, wanted to try to break out your selling and admin by class instead, you can have all these in one line item rather than two, and then see if you can be breaking out by class to allocate to give you an idea of the breakout between selling and admin by column as opposed to by separate subcategorization. So let's think about how some of these would work. Like if I went into these items here and I applied a class to basically all the expenses of either selling or admin expenses, I can then double click on this item and say, okay, let's go into here. And I'm going to say this is in the selling. So I'd have to turn on I don't have class tracking on. Notice I don't have the class over here. So I'm going to close this back out. Close this back out. Let's turn on class tracking, which might close all the windows again, by going to the edit dropdown, preferences, up to the accounting up top, company preferences, class tracking is on, and we want the prompt on as well. That's fine. I'm going to say okay. So we'll say okay. And so that is on. Now I'm going to go through here and assign each item to a class. And this is kind of nice within the system because you can go into each item and then assign the class. Before we do that, let's open up a P&L by class so we can see it by class now. Reports drop down, company and financial. Then let's go to the profit and loss, this time by class. Profit and loss by class. And then I'm going to change the dates from 01/01/21 to 12/31/21. There we have it. So everything is currently unclassified because we haven't assigned it to any class. And this is a nice tool because anything that is unclassified that I want to classify, maybe I want to keep, for example, the income unclassified because it is what it is, and then break out the selling and admin down here. So I could go, okay, I'm just going to go to these two items. If it's unclassified, I need to go back in there, drill back down on it, zooming in, and this one is going to be in a class of selling, let's call it. So I'm going to say this is selling class. I'm going to add it. I'm going to quickly add the class. And so there's the selling class. I'm going to say save, and you save changes. I don't want a new though. I'm just going to say save and close, save and close, save and close. So there it is. And I'm going to update our report. So now that item has been moved over to the selling as opposed to unclassified, and we have another column. Let's do the same for the utilities. So if I go into the utilities, double click on the item, notice how you can kind of drill down on it and assign the class. So we'll drill down on it. Now this one we broke out between two classes with the use of two different accounts. Now we can break it out also by the use of class. We have selling, and then maybe I don't want to classify the next one yet. I'll do it later. So I'm going to say save and close. And yes, and it's not classified on one of them. That's okay. So there we have that. And I'm going to say, okay, now we broke those two out to the selling side of the page. And then on the admin, I do the same thing. I can go into each of these items, double click on each of these items. And now this one is going to be admin, which maybe I'll abbreviate, and I'll add the class. And then I'll say save and close, save and close. And there we have admin on that one. And closing that back out, I'm going to do the same for all the unclassified over here. Unclassified. Double clicking on this item. I'm going to make this one admin as well. So I'm going to say save and close. Save and close. Save and close. So there we have the admin there. And then utilities. I'm going to double click on that. And then double click here. And this is the one we broke out to two categories. The second category is admin. So I'm going to say save and close, save and close, save and close. So then you can see how this would be breaking out between selling and admin. So possibly the sales obviously doesn't apply to the selling and admin, right? The selling and admin are going to be two separate categories, and you can kind of break out those two separate categories here. So you got the sales minus the cost of goods sold, gross profit, and then the selling and admin. So that's one way you can think about this. Now, if you were a smaller company and you don't want these whole separate chart of accounts that we talked about before, to set up the whole chart of accounts with these subcategories and have these two collapsible items, you might still get a feel for the selling and admin breakout like this with just the classes. And that could be useful, especially for a smaller company that's trying to get some more information by breaking out possibly with the use of classes without having the added burden of having multiple accounts possibly for the same kind of items to break out selling and admin in that kind of more formal type of way. So in that case, maybe I just don't use these 70 series numbers and I just use all of the 6 series numbers. I don't make the items subcategories, but rather I break them out by class, so I get an idea of my admin expenses versus my selling expenses by class rather than this subcategory. If you do that and you pull these up together, then notice what you're going to have here is something that's kind of side by side, which can give you a nice, easier look at it. It might be an easier thing to read in that format. So let's kind of consider how to do that. I'm going to go into all of these items down below, and I'm going to change the account from the 70 account to the 60 account, all in one, and then we can remove the subcategorization, and we'll see it all basically in one line item. So let's double click on all these items, and I'd say, okay, what if I go into these, and I just make this, I keep this in the auto for the 60, auto for the 300, but I'm going to keep it in admin by class instead of recognizing it as the 70,000 class number. So I'll do it that way, and I'm going to say save and close, save and close, save and close, and close this out. So now it's going to be up top here. So now we have admin for the auto broken out by class, and so this subcategory is not telling us anything because that's not useful. What we have instead is it broken out by class, selling, and the admin and selling. So then you can go, okay, let's do the same for the computer. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to say that now we want this to be the computer for the 60 series. So I'm going to say computer. So there's the one, and then I'm going to break it out by class. So we'll say save and close, save and close, save and close. And then I'll close this back out. And so now we have our computer and whatnot on the book by class. And then we'll do the same for the utilities here, double clicking on the utilities, double clicking on the utilities. This one we had 2 different line items. Instead of having 2 different line items because we want 2 different accounts now, we'll say we want 2 different line items because we want 2 different classes only. Same account, 2 classes. So then I can say save and close, save and close. And so now we have a much smaller kind of income statement. This would be the total income statement. The profit and loss, if I just looked at a normal profit and loss, would look like this. You could provide that, do your taxes with that or whatever, do your normal financial accounting with more of a single step income statement, not breaking out the selling and admin down below, and then try to break out for your internal use the selling and admin, not by creating a whole nother set of classes. And we would remove the subcategory. I won't remove the subcategory right now, but the subcategory is no longer telling you anything because this includes both selling and admin for each category. But then if I want to break out the category for my internal use to get an idea of the selling and admin breakout, then we can go on back over here to the profit and loss by class, breaking out the selling and the admin. And then the unclassified would be, the income and the cost of goods sold. And then the total column would still be the same as it is in the standard profit and loss report. So those are a couple different ways you can think about breaking these items out. Now next we might have a situation where we have multiple different divisions where we do basically different things. We might sell different things, and we might be wanting to break our information out by the things that we are doing, right? The 2 different divisions that are earning us revenue, and see if we can allocate our income and expense, income and expenses to those 2 different divisions that we're using in order to generate revenue. And then instead of just having 2 different accounts, which we could use to basically track the revenue from the 2 different things that we do, we might want 2 different divisions so that we can try to allocate our expenses to that as well. So we're going to start to, see what, we can get more information on each individual division and its contribution to the company. So next time we might still want, say, a breakout of the selling and admin broken out vertically, and then use our classifications not to break out selling and admin, but rather to break out the two divisions, the two main things that we do, and then see if we can allocate the selling and admin to the divisions in some type of way to do like a little bit of responsibility type of accounting, or in order to see the profitability if we were to apply out total costs by basically divisions. That's another way we can kind of put class tracking back in place. So what we're going to do next time is we'll go back to our original method of having the 60s and 70 accounts, not break out the selling and admin, but think about having two different divisions and how we might apply the accounts on the income statement by division and have the multi-step income statement breaking out selling and admin.